All right, this morning we're going to be looking at the book of Ruth chapter 1. And the message this morning is called Faithful in the Fallout, Trusting God When Life Falls Apart. And listen, we all experience hard times, right? We all experience seasons of hardship, loss, uncertainty. There are moments when it just feels like everything that we're familiar with, everything that we're close to in life, it just kind of slips away. And in those moments when we're standing at those crossroads, it's like, okay, what do I do here? What do I do? What path do I take? It's usually on those journeys, it's usually in those moments that our faith is tested, that we make decisions that show where our true devotion lies. And so in this story of Ruth, it begins in kind of one of those seasons. There's a season of famine, and then there's loss and heartache. And we're all going to see how these things have struck Naomi's family. But yet, in the midst of the pain, a profound decision is made. It's a decision that will shape the future in, honestly, unimaginable ways. Because Ruth, this Moabite widow, chooses to cling to Naomi, to her mother-in-law, and to the God of Israel. And she displays this commitment that really challenges us even today. And so as we jump into Ruth chapter 1, I just want to ask you guys this. When your life falls apart, what do? Where do your loyalties lie when those trying moments come? Ruth's unwavering commitment teaches us many things. It teaches us about faithfulness. It teaches us about trust and the incredible power of trusting God and choosing to follow Him, even when the road ahead is uncertain. So let us dive into this story this morning, open up our hearts and our minds to this very powerful passage, and see how God can speak to us through Ruth's life. So we're going to look at verses 1 through 18 of Ruth chapter 1. And here's what it says. In the days when the judges ruled, there was a famine in the land. So a man from Bethlehem in Judah, together with his wife and 2 sons, went to live for a while in the country of Moab. The man's name was Elimelech, and his wife was Naomi, and the names of his 2 sons were Mahlon and Chilion. They were Ephrathites from Bethlehem, Judah, and they went to Moab and lived there. Now Elimelech, Naomi's husband, died, and she was left with her 2 sons. They married Moabite women. One was named Orpah, and the other Ruth. After they had lived there about 10 years, both Mahlon and Chilion also died, and Naomi was left without her 2 sons and her husband. When Naomi heard in Moab that the Lord had come to the aid of his people by providing food for them, she and her daughters-in-law prepared to return home from there. With her 2 daughters-in-law, she left the place she had been living and set out on the road that would take them back to the land of Judah. Then Naomi said to her 2 daughters-in-law, "Go back, each of you, go to your mother's home. And may the Lord show you kindness as you have shown kindness to your dead husbands and to me. May the Lord grant that each of you will find rest in the home of another husband." Then she kissed them goodbye and wept aloud and said to her, "We will go back with you and to your people." But Naomi said, "Return home, my daughters. Why would you come with me? Am I going to have any more sons who become your husbands? Return home, my daughters. I am too old to have another husband. And even if I thought there were still hope for me, even if I had a husband tonight and then gave birth to sons, would you wait until they grew up? Would you remain unmarried for them? No, my daughters, it is more bitter for me than for you, because the Lord's hand has turned against me." At this, they wept aloud again. Then Orpah kissed her mother-in-law goodbye, but Ruth clung to her. "Look," said Naomi, "your sister-in-law is going back to her people and her gods. Go back with her." But Ruth replied, "Don't urge me to leave you or to turn back from you. Where you go, I will go, and where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God, my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. And may the Lord deal with me, be it ever so severely, if even death separates you and me." When Naomi realized that Ruth was determined to go with her, she stopped urging her. Okay, let's set the stage. The book of Ruth, it takes place during the time of the Judges, and there's this period of really great instability and disobedience in Israel. Basically, everyone was just kind of doing what they felt was right in their own eyes. There was corruption, there was chaos, it was everywhere. And in the midst of all this, we meet a family. The family of Elimelech, Naomi, and their 2 sons. They lived in Bethlehem. And a famine hit the land. And so they made the decision, listen, we're going to go to Moab. There's food there. We'll go to this foreign land and we will kind of settle, put down our roots there. And so I'll stop. Elimelech made a decision to take his family away from God's promised land because times were tough. I wondered when I read that, how many of us do that? When life gets hard, when things don't go the way we think they should, when things don't go the way we all plan them out to be, how many of us, our first instinct is to run? To leave the place that God has planted us. To abandon the promised land because we think if I go look somewhere else, I'm going to find something better. But Moab wasn't God's plan for Elimelech and his family. And I don't know if the two are related or not, but we see once Elimelech gets to Moab, he dies. And because he dies, he's not there to guide and direct his sons. And so they go and marry Moabite women, Orpah and Ruth. But then both of the boys die, leaving Naomi alone with her daughters-in-law. I can only imagine what Naomi was feeling. The pain she had to be enduring because she left her home with her husband and her 2 boys, and they left hoping for something better. And all she found was grief. Here she is, living in a foreign land. She's widowed, lost her children. Every avenue for security that she could depend on is gone. I don't know, maybe some of us in the room this morning know what that feels like. You thought your life was going one way, and then this crazy, tragic thing happens. And I don't know, maybe it was a loss. Maybe it was a betrayal. Maybe there was that dream that you always thought you were going to be that just never came to pass. And now the wind has kind of left your sails. You're sitting there feeling a little bit empty. We even see, if you continue to read, you'll see later on, Naomi even changes her name. She tells the people, listen, don't call me Naomi, call me Mara, because the Almighty has made me very bitter. She feels like God had turned his back against her. But the thing that I want us to see, the thing that we need to make sure we recognize is that even in Naomi's bitterness, even in her pain, God's still working. He didn't turn his back on her. He didn't give up. We see that Naomi hears the famine in Bethlehem is over, so she decides to return home. And so as she goes, her daughter-in-laws are going to go with her. But along the way, Naomi says, listen, girls, go back home. Go back to your parents' houses where your fathers can find you new husbands and you can be secure. Listen, if you go with me, there is no guarantee of security. She said, because I'm a widow. I've lost my 2 sons. I have nothing to offer you. There is no hope for you if you go with me. So go back to Moab. Go back to what you know. Go back to the familiar. Seek a better life for yourself. And Orpah does that. And we see she loved Naomi, but Naomi talked her into it. She's like, you know what? You're right. I don't see how I can have a future here. So I will go home. I'll go back to mom and dad and see what they can find me. But Ruth, we need to understand that the decision that Ruth made was extraordinary because it was something no one else had ever done like that before. No one would have stayed with Naomi in that position because Naomi was right. Ruth, if you go with me, you have no hope of a future. We're basically going to go back to Bethlehem and be beggars. And you're young and beautiful, so you may have to do something even worse. But Ruth refuses to leave. And what she says is one of the most famous declarations in all of Scripture. In verse 16, in the first part of 17, she said, "Don't urge me to leave you or turn back from you. Where you go, I will go. And where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God, my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried." I don't think we understand just how powerful of a statement that is. She's saying, Naomi, I don't care what the future holds for me. All I know is that I have seen enough of something in my time with you that I know that my place is with you. You've been a fantastic mother-in-law. Whatever it was, that there was a connection between these two women. And she loved her. And so she was making this commitment. And she said basically, Naomi, listen, if we have to beg on the street corner together, that is what I will do for the rest of my days. I will be faithful to you. Your God is now my God. I will serve him. But we're in this together. And the thing I want us to see from this, the thing we got to understand, Ruth was from Moab. Okay? She wasn't raised knowing the God of Israel. She didn't go and listen to lessons about Yahweh, but there was something in Naomi's life. There was something that she was able to experience because she spent time with her. She saw how Naomi worshiped and loved God. There was something about that interaction that showed Ruth that life was the life worth living. And she was there with Ruth. Remember, Ruth went through a terrible brokenness with losing her husbands and sons, but something about the way she handled that showed her that, listen, this God that Naomi serves is a God worth following. And I think that's key for us. And the reason I say that is because every day people are watching you. People are seeing how you handle life's difficulties. And listen, was Naomi perfect? No. She even said that she was bitter. She recognized that she was grieving. But even in her pain, her life spoke to Ruth enough that Ruth was willing to leave everything behind and follow Naomi's God. I wonder, when people see your life, do the choices you make, is the way that you live your life, is it one that encourages others to want to follow Jesus? Listen, I'll be the first person to admit, I think back now and I have these moments, I do it every once in a while. I think about the choices I made when I was younger. You know, when I was in high school and felt the call to ministry, but cared more about being popular and still, didn't treat young women with respect and drank and partied and all that. I wonder how much different things may have been for the people I had an influence over had I actually lived for Jesus instead of living for myself. And I regret it. And I want to go back. I'm not like Uncle Rico, in Napoleon Dynamite. Oh, if I could have just won state. No, that's not for me. It's like, if I could just go back and show people Jesus, how would their life be different today? I regret that. We all have regrets in life. We realize now as we get older, people look at us every single day, even when we don't think they are. So Ruth's decision, listen, it was not an easy one. She was leaving her culture. She was leaving her family. She was leaving everything that she had ever known. But she saw something in her mother-in-law that made her want to commit to that way of life. And if you know the story of Ruth, and even if you don't, read the story of Ruth. It's very fascinating. But that decision to remain faithful to Naomi was the best decision she ever made. Because of Ruth's faithfulness, God blessed her in an incredible way. She found favor when she arrived in Bethlehem. She met a man named Boaz, a man that was a godly man that would later marry her and redeem her whole family. And you know what? The kicker of all this is that Ruth, this Moabite outsider, becomes part of the genealogy of Jesus. God takes an unexpected person, this woman who has a broken past, who experienced nothing but hurt and pain, and he places her in the lineage of Jesus. So we hear the story and we think, well, what in the world does that mean? Well, what does Ruth's story have in common with me? How can I relate to that? Listen, sometimes God works in your life in incredible ways that you don't even see He's working. But for us in particular this morning, there are a few things that we can see. There's some things that we can learn. First thing that we can learn, if we haven't already, we know this, it's that life can often take unexpected turns. That's number one. Write that down and know it. Life can take unexpected turns. And when that happens, it leads us kind of flailing, right? When you're going this way and all of a sudden the road just veers sharp right, you're like, whoa, what's going on here? Kind of like Naomi's life. When things don't go as planned, you know, it's easy to feel abandoned. It's easy to feel like God has turned a blind eye to our struggles. However, just as Naomi's story took a surprising turn, so can ours. Despite feeling like our story is at its end, we have to remember that God is the ultimate author. He is not finished with us. If we have breath in our lungs, if we are sitting here alive, which you all look alive, some of you look like you might be struggling a little bit. We got an AED on the wall if you need it. I'm kidding. But listen, if we have breath in our lungs, God's not done with us. He's never finished. Even in our darkest moments, when it seems like all hope is lost, we got to hold on to the belief that there is still more to come. Just as a new chapter follows the end of an old one, so too can new beginnings arise from our struggles. And as long as we're breathing, there is a purpose, there is a plan that God is working through our lives behind the scenes. And so I want you to take heart. Know and believe that your story is still being written and the best may be yet to come. Trust in God. Trust in His timing and His plan. Even when it feels like you've been forgotten, our journey is never over and there is still so much more for us to discover and experience. We just have to embrace the uncertainty and trust that God is there and He is the one leading us to that brighter tomorrow. The second thing that we can learn from this story is that you have a choice. When faced with challenges like Ruth, it is crucial to remember the power of perseverance and faith. And just like Ruth, we have the choice to either retreat when things get hard or to lean into our faith and really trust in God's plan. Ruth decided to stay faithful. Ruth decided to stay committed, even in the face of adversity. And that led her to unexpected blessings and opportunities she didn't even know she had. Listen, Ruth could have been just like Orpah. Ruth could have returned to Moab, and it would have made sense, right? Because that was her home. It was familiar, it was comfortable, but instead she said, no. I am going to step out in faith because I see something in my mother-in-law that's quite incredible, and I'm going to go with her. And that wasn't something that she just said, why not? No, listen, this was a decision that required courage, it required determination, and a deep trust in this God of her mother-in-law. And by choosing to have faithfulness over comfort and to let fear take its place in her life, what she chose was to open herself up to a life that was something that she could have never imagined. And her story serves as a powerful reminder that sometimes the most challenging paths lead us to the most rewarding destinations. When we choose to press on, when we choose to trust in God's plan, even when his plan seems difficult, even when his plan doesn't make a lick of sense, and there isn't any clarity on that path. Listen, when we do that, we are still positioning ourselves to receive blessings that we would have never experienced unless we had chosen to trust him. So I want to encourage you, just like Ruth, remember the importance of faithfulness and perseverance in our own lives. And be willing to step out of your comfort zone. Be willing to trust in God's provision. Be willing to embrace the journey ahead with courage and hope. And if we can do that, then I think we'll find ourselves walking into an abundant blessing and discovering what his ultimate purpose is for our lives. One last thing I have for you this morning. The third thing, and that is that God uses the unexpected. You know, God's ways really are kind of mysterious. The Bible even says that God's ways are beyond ours. His thoughts are higher than ours. He operates in ways that our feeble little brains can't even comprehend. I mean, that was the Pastor Brandon paraphrase. But that's how God works. And so often for us, we see a step in life that just seems to make sense. We see something in life and we just think this is the way it should be. It's black and white for us. But listen, sometimes God has a plan that we can never even begin to think could exist. You know, so often we get our minds so set that this is the way it's supposed to go. This is the way it's supposed to be. That we forget that God can just step in and direct us the way he wants us to go. And remember, Ruth was this wonderful, faithful Moabite woman. Someone that probably everyone in Naomi's community would have overlooked. Certainly someone that they would never have envisioned that God could use to fulfill a plan. But listen, God saw something in Ruth that those people may have overlooked. God saw something in the fact that she was willing to stay and support her mother-in-law and trust in him when she had no experience or no reason to trust him. A lot of times when God moves in our lives, or when he calls us to do his incredible things, we feel like we are unqualified. We feel that we are inadequate. We think that we don't have the right skills. We don't have enough experience. We don't have the background to be used by God. But read the story of Ruth and let it be a reminder to you that, listen, God doesn't require that you're the most qualified. He doesn't need the most talented. All he requires of us is that we are willing to step out in faith and trust him. And if we can do that, then he will work through us. So if you're ever having those moments when you feel like you're not good enough, or that God can't use you because you've been such a screw up, remember, Ruth's story was a difficult story. She made an unlikely choice and she walked an unlikely path, and it was that kind of path, and it's exactly those kind of paths that I think God delights in using. He delights in using the unlikely and the unexpected to bring about his purposes. And he can use those things in us that we think are flaws or weaknesses, and through his glory and through his grace and his hand can turn them into strengths. He can turn things that we think are shortcomings and he can make them opportunities for his glory to shine. And so when you're feeling lost and when you're feeling unsure of where God is calling you to go, and you're thinking, God, this thing is too daunting, it's too overwhelming, take a breath and just remember that God is calling you, that God can use you, that his plan is greater than you can imagine. It just means that you may have to step out in faith. It just means that you have to realize that it's going to push you a little bit. It's going to push you out of your comfort zone. But if God's the ultimate mama bird, right? If he kicks you out of the nest, he's going to give you the tools to fly. And when we jump out of the nest, we might have that moment of, whoa, what have I done? But then as we start to soar, we're like, oh, this is amazing. Why did I never see this before? And so listen, I know that we all have different paths. Everyone's story is different. And we're all in different seasons. Listen, some of us this morning may be sitting here and it's just a terrible season. You struggle every day. You ask, why in the world does this happen? It's like one thing after one thing after one thing just keeps happening, and it's just impossible to get it. You're just in this hole, and it's just like, man, I don't understand. Listen, if you're there, that kind of season is where your faith is really going to be tested. And let me encourage you, if that's where you are this morning, this now is the time you have to just say, God, I don't understand what in the world you're doing to me. I don't know why I have to go through this pain. But I know that you're with me, and I know that you're going to go with me every step of the way. And I know it may be hard to see now, but listen, God is working. He is working behind the scenes, and he can weave a story of redemption and hope into your life. And maybe you're not there now, but maybe you've been through it. And you say, yeah, I remember those times. It wasn't fun. And if you haven't been through it, and if you're not in it now, I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but it's coming for you. It happens to all of us. The reason I'm saying it is because what I want you to remember is when it hits you and it hurts and it's not fun, you're going to want to give up. You're going to want to walk away. You're going to want to say, to heck with all this. But listen, staying faithful to God, trusting in his provision, trust that he has called you to something greater is so crucial. Because if you can hold tight to his promises, it's in those moments when you really have to persevere and endure. It's in those moments that your faith is strengthened and matured. And you begin to discover this depth that is in you, this character that you didn't even know existed. Remember Ruth, a woman who remained loyal and faithful to her mother-in-law, even when her mother-in-law basically was like, get on out of here. You know, like, I ain't got nothing for you, girl. She tried to run her off as hard as she could, but Ruth remained in something that downright looked hopeless. But she had a feeling. No, I'm going to remain with you, Naomi. And I'm going to serve your God because I feel like that is the way I should go. And God rewarded her faithfulness with this incredible blessing. She is in the lineage of Jesus. My final parting words to you this morning. I want to encourage you to take that step of faith. I want you to choose to take that step of faith, especially even when you can't see the whole picture. Trust that God is with you every moment of every day, that God is writing a story for you that is so much greater and more beautiful than you could ever imagine. And even if it doesn't look so great right now, just trust that God, I know that you are using this for something more. I know you are using this for greatness, for your name, and I'm just going to cling tightly to you and embrace this journey that you're on. Because I promise you, the journey is leading you to a place of fulfillment and joy and purpose, and it's beyond your wildest dreams. And so when the chaos of life becomes too much and everything seems to be falling apart, remain faithful. Because if you can trust in that and trust in God, there's nothing life can throw at us that will ever defeat us. Let's pray together.